Welcome to The Road Reflected with Nicole Wakeland. Automotive from the lighter side. That means cars, but also cookies, coffee, and pie. Up first, what's Nicole behind the wheel of this week?
Okay, we're going to talk about a truck this week. I know, shocker, because we haven't talked about very many trucks lately. I've had a lot of trucks, Ross.
Yeah, but this one's called the Trail Boss.
Yes, it's the Chevy Silverado Custom Trail Boss Z71.
No, it's the Trail Boss.
Okay. Wait, you're looking to get like a voiceover work for Chevy?
I'm ready for
Is
the
that
next
where we're
commercial.
going?
Trail Boss. Z71 Trail Boss.
So the Trail Boss is like an off-road trim of the Silverado. The Z71 is an off-road package. They're two separate things. You can put them both together. So you get a Trail Boss because you want to be a little bit off-roady. And then you put the Z71 package on there to be a little off-roadier.
I kind of feel like anything named Trail Boss should be the most off-roady.
Oh my God, if you don't stop saying it that way, I'm going to kick you off the show.
We're in.
Okay.
We're in.
No, it is. Well, here's the funniest thing, though. This isn't the most off-road version of this truck.
Interesting.
Which stands for, they also have the ZR2.
Okay.
And the ZR2 is like more of an off-road
Trail Bossier.
Trail Bossier. So think of the Trail Boss as sort of like it's like it's not the boss, it's the trail assistant boss. trail assistant to the boss.
Assistant.
Yeah. So it's still a pretty off-road worthy truck, but it's not something like the Ford Raptor or like the Ram Rebel TRX. I think it's I think I'm saying the right, but anyway, it's not like those. It's not that off-road. It's a little bit lighter than that, but it gets a bit of a lift. So it's higher, so you can clear the rocks and trees and whatever it is on the ground that you want to clear. It gets a more robust suspension system, so it can handle going over those bumps and dips without rattling your teeth too much. So it does get those things. I didn't take it off-road. I took it driving around, regular driving, which to be fair, most people are not. Even if you're a super hardcore off-roader, you probably aren't off-roading every single day of your life.
No, you do have to drive it on the street occasionally.
Right? You occasionally have to drive it on the street. So I drove it like most people drive it. And that means taking it on the road, taking it on twisty turnies. And I found
Grocery store. And
I felt like it was a really well-mannered truck.
Okay. Well-mannered. On and off-road or just well-mannered on-road?
Well, I think it's both. Like I said, I didn't really take it off-road, but well-mannered on-road. It doesn't have to, like sometimes you get trucks that are a bit off-road, and maybe that's because this is sort of a mid-off-road. It's not off-road crazy. It's off-road light.
Okay.
So driving it around, you don't feel like it's too bouncy. You don't feel like you're on the highway and you change lanes at 65 miles an hour and it's like, whoa, like you don't, it's
not too rolly.
It's not too rolly. Okay. So I really like that about it. Also, and I'm sorry, I have a cold.
That's okay.
Also, it has the same multifunction tailgate that they have in the GMC Sierra, which I had a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Which of all the tailgates, again, I like this one the best.
Yeah, those are cool.
So I like it because it does the traditional tailgate. It does like a half fold tailgate down that like is exactly the right height if you were like writing something up.
Sign your contract, you can sign their invoices.
And it has a little thing that flips up so you can kind of use it as like a bump stop to keep like plywood and stuff from sliding out the back of your truck. And then it folds folds entirely down and it becomes steps. You can step right in and there's even a little like no slippy thing so your feet don't slip. I happened it was pouring rain. I'm like, look at that. My feet aren't slipping.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that it's a substantial step. Sometimes truck steps, I know they'll hold like the biggest and burliest of men.
Yeah, but they feel wobbly sometimes.
Right? You've stepped on, they feel wobbly. And I think also too, like you're a big guy. So when you step on with big boots, you feel like your foot is barely on it.
Yeah, you're kind of balancing the first place. You don't really need anything that has a lot of give to
and
it.
I know that it's going to hold you. I'm not questioning the fact that every single
it just
step
can't be soft and bouncy.
Right. This one feels like you could just like jump right up there and it's going to be fine. So I like this. And this is my favorite tailgate. Now, if there's ever something that people will want to argue about, it would be trucks. Truck guys, I don't know why truck guys are so aggressively argumentative.
Well, people get passionate about their trucks. Whenever you're passionate about anything,
good grief,
you get a little argumentative about the best version of that.
Right?
You know, it's
but it's not just like, I really like the Ford
no. There's rights
than
and
the
wrongs.
Chevy. It's you are wrong. How dare you? And you're like,
no, people are passionate.
They're passionate. They're angrily passionate. Tailgates in particular. So people argue about the tailgates. Like,
do people not like multifunction tailgates? They want a very simple, like hunk of metal that folds up and down.
Most of the guys that argue about it are saying they're like, I just want a stinking tailgate that folds up and down. I just want to flop down and flop.
Simple, because too many things to go wrong. I can see that.
They all think it's going to break.
You want to slam your wood back there, your garbage, whatever, your big lumber. You don't care.
Okay. Yeah. So they want just a regular old tailgate, but this is kind of cool. Like if you're trying to really, truly, if the truck guys could get over the, who moved my cheese idea of making a tailgate open in different configurations.
Well, but it's an option anyway, right?
Yes, it's not. I think it might be standard on some trims, honestly, like when you get up to the highest trim. But like if you don't get it.
But I think having a multifunction tailgate.
You can still just open it like normal.
As a boring old tailgate. Yeah.
The only thing that confuses, so there's two buttons. It's just like the little, tiny little buttons. You push one button and the whole tailgate flips down. You push the other one and little half tailgate flips down. Right. I swear to God, no matter how many times I use this, I don't hit the button I want to hit the first time.
See, now that's a flaw.
I'm sure that this would make sense to me if I had it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, every single time I'm like, wait a minute, which button A, button B, no, button B, then button A. And I'm forever pushing the wrong buttons on this tailgate, but it is incredibly easy to use. You push the button, it pops right open. So I really like that. The big thing that I would say the difference, like tailgates are similar because they're both General Motors products, right? So it's the same deal. But they are very different trucks. And I think the biggest difference really when you look at a GMC versus Chevy, GMC is, professional grade and they want to be more upscale. And it looked that way in the inside. Like when you sat down, there was no doubt about it that the GMC was a more expensive truck. And it was considerably so. I want to say that one was about $100,000.
That's a lot of money. I mean, people spend a lot of money on their trucks, especially contractors as a business.
So this is like half the price. Yeah, so you're still getting a really capable truck that handles really well and does all the trucky things you want your truck to do, but it just doesn't look nice inside. So if that sort of premium interior, having a little bit more luxury to your truck is important, then go with the GMC and you get the fancy tailgate. If that's not so important, then go with the Chevy and get the fancy tailgate. So I like the fancy. I like the GMC. Which one would you get? Because you rode in both of these trucks too.
I think if I can afford it, the GMC is just cooler.
Why is the GMC cooler?
It just feels more baller. It feels like, GMC.
You want all the fancy. You want it to say
I think so.
Denali.
But you don't need. I mean, if you're trying to get something that gets the job done and is nice and has a lot of great options, the Chevy's fine. I think it's fine.
And also this one had the and I don't think it's offered on GMC, but don't quote me on that. It had the middle seat on the front. So the bench seat, it's a bench seat up front. And
which is kind of old school.
Right? And when you fold it down, it looks like a center console. And then when you fold it up, it actually becomes...
Which can be handy when you're driving a whole crew to a site or something. You need extra room.
Yeah. So I mean, it's cool. Although I remember once ages ago, we did have a Ford that had that middle seat. And there was a person who said, she's like, this is the single most uncomfortable thing I've ever sat on in my entire life. Like if ever there was a seat, like just in emergencies, people, just in a pinch.
Like, I mean, every car used to be bench seats, right? We eventually went to bucket seats. And so there's a reason that happened. Right?
Yeah, but this I think is not even as comfy as like the bucket seats in the back of the one giant bench. The little third center console bench seat.
It's really
that's
a
like,
half bench.
It's like the penalty box.
It's a partial bench.
Yeah,
it's like the fold out couch.
If there was like a crew of guys, that's the apprentice that gets to sit in that seat. Foreman sitting in the driver's seat. Apprentice.
Sleep in a sleeper sofa, but you don't really want to.
Right.
This is the same.
This is exactly like that. Like it works for one more person in front, but it's not ideal.
If you like what you're hearing, don't miss out. Please help us out right now. Go on over to iTunes and like us. Or give us a little like on your favorite podcatcher of choice and subscribe to keep hearing more and more of The Road Reflected.
There you go. Look at that. You taking over the little announcement.
I just thought I'd jump in there today.
Okay, because I was coughing up a lung. Is that really why?
Yes, that's true. A little behind the scenes there.
I'm like
Nicole's fighting a little cold, and so I'm trying to cover for her.
I'm sipping a really fancy, and in fact, you know what flavor this tea is?
What flavor is your tea today?
It's pumpkin.
Ooh, pumpkin. Mm-hmm. We should talk about pumpkin.
We might be talking about that in a little bit. Yeah. Pumpkin chai. So the other vehicle I'm going to talk about is one I was supposed to be driving this week. Unfortunately, did not get to because of things went sideways and I just wasn't able to attend a program. It was for the Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness.
Ooh, we are off. We are in the trees this week.
Yes. So the Crosstrek has been around for a while and the Wilderness trim has been around for a little while. Now they've put the two together. So you have the Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness. So Wilderness. So Subaru is already a pretty like rugged brand. It's the vehicle that you take when you want to go to the mountains or you want to go little, maybe you're driving to a lake house or something.
A lot of
that's
happy
off-road.
Forester fans out there.
Yes, So it's standard all-wheel drive. So it's the kind of vehicle you get when you're a little bit more active. It's active lifestyle is the term that the automakers like to use. So it is that vehicle, but the Wilderness versions of any Subaru are even a little bit more rugged. Not like crazy, but just a little bit more
clearance.
You get a little bit more clearance. Like this one, the total clearance on this one is 9.3 inches, which I think is a little more than a half an inch more than the rest of the lineup. Okay. So not like a huge amount. We're not talking like the rest of the lineup's 5 and this is 10 or something. Right. But it does give you a little bit more clearance. They've changed up the suspension a little bit. So again, as you're driving on like dirt roads or what have you, it's going to be less bouncy. It's going to be a little bit smoother. It's going to be able to handle some bumps and dips and little bits of rocks and branches and things a little bit more easily. And they've improved the approach and departure angles. So that's if you're going something steep, that your bumper doesn't clip it coming out, or that you don't dig into it as you're trying to go up something steep. So it makes it easier to get into and out of steep
or clear
things.
A rock at the bottom of an incline, that kind of stuff.
Right. So it makes it easier to clear things. So they did those things to make it a little bit more rugged. But honestly, it's not like the Crosstrek was not already a pretty capable vehicle, right? It's not like you're driving something that had a really low clearance. It's not a sedan. It's like it's a wagon. I want to call it a wagon. What do they technically call it? Probably a crossover.
Are wagons still a thing? It's probably a crossover.
No, because Americans hate wagons.
I know, but I think crossovers are just the modern station
I feel like
wagon,
crossovers, honestly. It depends how it looks. Some of them are more wagon-ish.
I mean, they don't look like wagons anymore, but they basically function like
wagons.
They
function like
They're
wagons.
Elongated sedans with hatchbacks.
I think this one looks more wagon-ish and less crossover-ish. Our neighbor has one down the street, a bright orange one that she loves. And I always know when she's home because it's like
bright orange. It says, hello, I'm here.
Yes. You know when Laura has pulled into the neighborhood because bright orange Crosstrek comes driving down the street.
Yeah.
So the Wilderness is a new one. They got a new cool color with this one. They have a Wilderness-specific color.
Oh.
It's called Geyser Blue.
See, I would have guessed green for Wilderness just because of foresty feeling.
Well, they have other colors. Okay, it's not the only color. Blue. But Geyser Blue is exclusively available to the Wilderness trim. So if you want Geyser Blue.
Yeah, if you want to blend in at Old Faithful, you're good to go.
Yeah, if you want to drive to Old Faithful and blend in, you want to get the Geyser Blue Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness.
Okay.
And they did it. Actually, they did the drive for this out in the middle of nowhere. It was near Zion in Utah.
Ooh,
and
that was beautiful.
Yeah, I was really sad that I missed this. So it was like a glamping thing, like very fancy tents with, with an actual bed in it.
Like a high-end yurt situation.
Yes, like a high-end yurt, the kind of yurt-ish. Actually, it's very yurt-ish. And you get a little camp stove so that that you can feed like a wood stove. You can feed wood into if it gets too cold.
Toasty warm.
Yeah, so I was really looking forward to this because it's beautiful out there. I've been out there a couple of times for programs with other automakers, and it's always lovely. And this looked absolutely gorgeous. Although there was one drawback, and I'm going to tell you, I am not sad I missed this particular aspect of the event.
Oh, what could possibly go wrong in a national park like that?
There were tarantulas.
Ooh, like big spiders.
Well, that's what tarantulas are.
That's what I'm saying. Big. So basically, were the yurts festooned with big spiders?
I don't think festooned. I think that might be over exaggerating. Okay. But there was one colleague who had a tarantula in his tent.
Okay, that would be disturbing.
Yes, and then he saw one on the ground as he was wandering out.
That would also be a little spooky.
In the tent,
seeing them out in the wild. I mean, that's what they.
Oh, in the tent would slay me. I'd have been like, Subaru, excuse me. Do you have the keys to the car I'm driving tomorrow? Okay, I've got my pillow. I'm sleeping in the car.
Yeah, yes.
A tarantula in my tent would have freaked me out.
I would not be able to sleep the rest of the night.
Would you be able to sleep if you've done? No. I mean, knowing that there's not a bazillion of them in there, but still.
And I don't know that they're really very aggressive or even really that dangerous.
You know what my daughter told me? They jump.
Okay, I did not know that.
They jump because she worked in a pet store.
Oh, yes.
And so one of the things he told you, and you have to take care of all the animals and clean the cages and stuff. And I think spiders may be the one thing she's like, no, thank you. Like you could pick a thing you didn't have to limits.
do. I'll wrangle crickets. For the people come and buy crickets all the time.
Yeah, she would handle crickets, but she was like, no to spiders.
Not the spiders.
They warn, not like they'll jump like, I don't know how they jump. Not like they'll jump 20 feet in the air.
Like the face hugger and aliens, like right on your face.
Yeah, they are not actually face huggers. Okay. I feel like they're descendant of face huggers.
Yeah, someone was.
But they can jump. Can you imagine? Oh my God.
Yeah, no. Check, please.
Mm-hmm,
no,
so I was a little freaked out. But although there was only one person of all the people that were out that I saw mention that there were tarantulas, and nobody said they died. And it wasn't a theme. It was just like I saw one journalist. He's like, there was a tarantula in my tent. I was like, oh no, thank you, no, thank you. No. So, but they did drive them out there and they were taking them off road. I'm sure people will be putting up all sorts of driver impressions about them this week and talking about what they thought driving it around in Utah. I've driven the Crosstrek, and the Crosstrek is a great vehicle. Yeah. So I can imagine that the Wilderness would not be equally as good or better than. In addition to the little bit of extra suspension clearance that it has, it also gets, it has their dual function X mode, which is their off-road driving modes. There's one that's a snow and dirt mode and one that's a deep snow, I think, and mud. Okay. So basically what it should do is it just handles like if the terrain gets a little mucky.
Changing the traction.
Yeah. So honestly, although the mud thing isn't something I need to deal with every day, snow is. And what I really, really hope, because generally these vehicles from these drives eventually end up in the media fleets, and that's how I end up with a car for the week. Like I had the Chevy Silverado. That's how I ended up with that. It makes it into these local fleets, and we drive the car for a whole week. I'm really hoping that the Crosstrek Wilderness will end up here, and I want it to arrive in January.
Like during the snow season.
During the snow season. I want to get a Crosstrek in January so that I can have you not yet plow the snow at the bottom of the driveway and be like, okay, we'll test your X mode and blast and see whether I end up stuck in the snowbank or blast right through it.
So for the cars have these variable modes, which my understanding is basically adjusts how the traction control works, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I would say that in this, it really makes a difference in snow. I've noticed any of these cars that have it, you really notice it. Because you just tend to, even if you're a very experienced, winter driver in New England, you tend to over accelerate. You tend to spin your wheels. You tend to then have a situation, and these traction control modes really help you out.
Yeah, the drive modes aren't just there for kicks and giggles.
No, the
automakers actually do them, and if you change them and you're not in the right conditions, you're not going to know, I changed it, I didn't feel anything different. Well, of course you didn't. You were driving on just plain road. You put it in snow mode, cars like, what the heck? There's no snow. It just behaves like normal. Right. You have to try these things in the conditions like a snow mode when it's actually snowy, or an off-road mode when it's actually off-road, or mud mode when it's actually in the mud. And then you do notice if you flip back and forth in that mode, like I've driven cars in snow mode when it's actually snowing out, and just okay, what if I change it back out of snow mode? What if I just leave it in regular normal mode? And you can notice the difference. It manages things in such a way that it's not like this overt, oh my goodness, it handles terribly, and now suddenly it handles beautifully. It's very subtle, but if you're paying attention, you can tell the difference. The beauty of them is that you don't need to pay attention. You put these vehicles into snow mode, and it just does it. You drive like you would normally drive. You use a normal level of caution and braking and everything else that you would do driving in those conditions. And it just makes you, it's almost like it makes you a little bit of a better driver. It makes you a little bit better at what you're driving.
Now, I know you weren't there, but I also know you were doing a lot of research on it and seeing a lot of the press releases coming out and everything. How's the interior? Do they have any Easter eggs in there?
So I don't know what I call it Easter eggs, but they do a nice interior. So they have what they call anodized copper accents. And I think they're on the outside too. Okay. And it kind of, I believe on another vehicle, I may have referred to these as orange. And the internet collectively had a conniption fit.
That's not orange, it's copper.
Yeah, so don't say anything truck guys don't like about. Don't tell any CB drivers that it's orange when it's actually
chrome.
Anodized copper. No, anodized copper accents. Okay. So you have those on the inside, which translates to there's some contrast stitching in there.
That's cool.
And there's also I think it says Wilderness on the headrest, maybe the backrest. So it says Wilderness inside there. So you get some cool little just visual details inside that let you know that this is a little bit more off-road. And I think there's heavier duty floor mats and stuff because they're assuming you're going to make it messy and gross. But I would take those kinds of floor mats in any car. If I was buying a Camry, I'm like, can I get your heavy duty floor mats? Because as soon as you're in some place where it's snowy or salty or dirty, you destroy normal floor mats.
Right, for sure.
So I want the heavy duty, the commercials where people spill a coffee. That's me. I mean, I've never in my life spilled a coffee in a press car, honest to God, but I have in my own car more than once. Yes. You drop that French fry and then don't realize it, and then you smoosh French fry into your floor mat. It's a bad state of affairs.
Now, we talked about the trucks. A little pricey to get off road. Is this a little more affordable way to get off road?
This is definitely more affordable. So this starts at about $32,000.
That's much cheaper,
right? So that's so $32,000. I know that still sounds like a lot. It's not cheap. I wouldn't imply that it's cheap, but it's definitely a vehicle that can fit within an average budget. Hey, wait, did we just drive by a bakery? Never drive by a bakery. And remember how earlier I mentioned that I was sipping tea and it was pumpkin flavored tea
because it is fall.
It's time for another sip.
Okay. It is fall. It is time for all things pumpkin.
Okay. I've had another sip of tea. I can talk more. So yes, it is all things. In fact, today, as we are recording this, it's October 1st.
It is.
So I know fall happened a couple days ago, and sometimes people say fall is like September. It happens like towards the end of September.
Right.
But I feel like once you are at October 1st, you're fully committed. Fall is here.
All in on fall.
You can do all the fall things you want to do. In fact, I'm wearing flannel. You can break out the flannel. You can break out all the gourds and pumpkins that you want to decorate your front porch.
Mums should be out.
We've got mums out.
Yeah.
We're going to go get pumpkins next weekend.
Corn stalks attached to your lamppost.
All the things. All the fall things are officially out. But the thing that really makes fall is a single flavor, and it's pumpkin.
It is pumpkin.
It's not apple, because you do apple pie in the summer still.
I know, but I do feel apples fall. Apple cider, apple picking.
Between apple and pumpkin is the one that does it for me.
Okay.
It's about the pumpkin. But yeah, there is apple, because we do mulled cider. We do a lot of mulled cider up here.
Apple is a fall thing.
And apple cider donuts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which are yummy. Now I feel like we have to go to the farm stand after this and get some apple cider donuts.
I think we do need to do that.
Maybe some mulled cider. I don't know. Is it actually really cold out today? It's 63. It's rather toasty.
So this is a time of year in New England when you have to dress in layers.
Yes.
So you wake up in the morning, it's like 40.
Yes.
And you're just happy that things aren't covered in frost.
Mm-hmm.
But then by noon, it's in 70s.
Right.
High 60s, low 70s. So like, you do have to
that whole dress and layers thing. It was made for people who live in New England.
Flannel is perfect this time of year.
Yes, so I'll probably have this flannel shirt off by the time that we go outside. And I'll just be wearing a t-shirt, but whatever. So, but I love the fall because I love the pumpkin stuff. The first time a pumpkin spice latte shows up at Starbucks, I'm all in. And I know that's the most basic of drinks, and everybody hates the PSL lifestyle.
Pumpkin, but it's only because it's awesome,
right? And if everybody really hated it, would everybody do it?
It's like those old commercials, don't hate me because I'm beautiful. This is what this is. Don't hate pumpkin because it's wonderful. It's just wonderful.
Right. It's wonderful. Don't hate pumpkin because it's wonderful. So pumpkin is amazing. And I love pumpkin spice latte, but they do pumpkin everything. And I feel like this is not just a New England thing. It's an everywhere thing. So we have pumpkin pancakes, pumpkin muffins, pumpkin donuts, pumpkin munchkins, or some people call them donut holes because they're not from New England where Dunkin Donuts reigns supreme. And they call them Timbits at Tim Hortons.
Okay, Timbits.
Timbits.
Yeah.
One word, Timbits, which the girls used to love to eat those, but I will forever call them munchkins, which I think technically it's like when you call an adhesive bandage a Band-Aid. Munchkins is probably like...
Munchkin is a brand name for Dunkin Donuts.
So I'm abusing their trademark when I call any other donut hole a munchkin. I don't care.
I used to back in college, I was the guy who made the donuts between 11 p.m.
That's right.
and 7 in the morning.
Oh my gosh,
I worked at a Dunkin Donuts competitor, Mr. Donut, back
Who's
in the
gone
day.
now, right?
It was. But two little fun facts. One, we did have to call them donut holes.
You did.
Munchkins is trademark.
You couldn't do that.
But two, munchkins, or those little round things that people call donut holes, are not actually donut holes.
I knew that.
They are not made from the leftover donut hole. We actually have a little device that drops them in perfectly round little shapes.
Which seems wrong. Like, I get that they made,
Well, it's because it's just because of volume. It doesn't make any sense.
I want to believe that somewhere there's little tiny elfin creatures that make the donut holes from the holes in the center of the donuts.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't work that way, though.
No. I mean, you could. You'd have extra. You'd have leftovers for a bunch of reasons. That is too complicated to explain.
You and your logic, whatever.
Podcast.
I'm just going to, let me tell you how donut holes
Let me explain how donuts work.
Because this is important stuff. This is what everyone needs to know. So I'm all about all the pumpkin. And they have pies and there's pastries. There's even syrup. But I feel like pumpkin maple syrup, I like maple syrup that's maple syrup. That may be the one thing I don't like.
What, you don't like maple syrup?
No, when they put pumpkin, they have flavored maple syrup.
Oh, yeah, no.
When they do a pumpkin maple syrup, I feel like maple syrup should be flavored maple.
Maple syrup should be flavored maple.
Yes, maple syrup should be flavored maple.
Correct.
So that's kind of where I'm going. So, but that doesn't stop me from pumpkin maple syrup. Bring it. And pumpkin coffee, tea.
Yes.
I'm all about the pumpkin things, but I have one complaint about my beloved Dunkin Donuts.
What could be wrong with Dunkin Donuts?
Okay, they do all. They are. I love Dunks, but they do all sorts of pumpkin flavored things, and they've been doing for years since our girls were wee little girls. A pumpkin muffin. It's this nice.
It is squishy, my youngest daughter's favorite,
right?
Of all the Dunkin' treats.
So it's this nice, moist pumpkin muffin. It's like Wonder Bread. If you can roll Wonder Bread into a little ball, you could roll the interior of these muffins into a little ball. It's like this tiny, squishy muffin, right? And then it has like a streusel crumb topping on top,
crumble top,
right? Well, I was going to say when the girls were little, they got all over them, but I did watch my daughter.
You can still get it all over
I watched her this morning use a knife to cut it in half.
I forbade her from eating into the car, even though she is 19.
Yeah, and there was streusel all over her sleeve.
Making a mess in my car.
Yeah, she's like, I don't even know how you did that. It just leaps everywhere. But in the pictures, on the signs,
And back in the day.
on the website, everywhere, it also has little white icing drizzled on top of these muffins.
And that's how it used to be.
And the white icing, like, the whole muffin tops are better than the muffin
It's
thing.
sporadic now.
You don't always find it. I have yet to find one this year that actually put the white icing
It used
on top.
to be, in all the photos, they still show the white icing.
I know. I went and confirmed
All
today.
the ads on their website, on the sign in the drive-thru when
Yes.
we ordered it. And it used to be every time you'd get the icing.
Now?
Now it's like 75% no icing.
So I want to know what's up with that.
I'm afraid it's budget cuts.
How
have no idea.
expensive can icing be?
I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if they're running out of icing.
Do we have
I don't know if
lazy
the
Dunks
baker's forgetting
bakers?
to do it. I don't know if it's just sloppiness.
Because if I worked in Dunkin Donuts and you came out of the back with your tray of muffins with no icing, I'd be like, dude.
They're still great without the icing, by the way, but it's even more amazing with the icing.
I feel like Gordon Ramsay would yell at you if you brought these muffins. He'd be like, did you try these muffins?
Yeah, if they had an expediter at
Did you
Dunkin'
try
Donuts,
these beep
like on
muffins? These beep
MasterChef.
muffins or beep, beep, beep. Where's the beep and icing? That's what we would have if Gordon Ramsay
That would
saw
be,
these.
yes. Are you trying to ruin this restaurant?
Yeah.
Is that what happened right now?
Did you taste this? No, chef, taste this. Yeah.
Right.
So it seems like such a, but I loved the
Yes,
icing.
I
So
agree.
now I feel like I have to look somewhere else to actually find somebody that makes a pumpkin streusel muffin with the icing on top.
What if you just brought your own little packet of icing?
What do you think I am? Betty Crocker? Like
You
I
know
have
how,
packets of icing in my
you know
pocket?
how they sell now? They used to be in tubs for icing, right?
They
Frosting.
still do that.
But you can now get little tubes of the icing, squirt icing.
No, that's not the same.
And you could drizzle it right on.
No, the icing they sell in the cake aisle at the grocery store is not the
those
same.
little packs that come in the
it's like
the cinnamon buns. You
I
take
think
a little
it's
pack
like
of
oh, that might work.
and just drizzle it right on.
Like from a thing of like
Just
Pillsbury.
throw the cinnamon buns away. Keep the little packets of frosting, and then just
Because there
drizzle it
is
on
generally
top.
more icing in the cinnamon bun thing. So
Yes.
do I need to have I do need to be like a little old lady who has like Splenda and salt and a
You
ketchup
can
packet?
throw little
I
packets
just
of
need a little
frosting.
pack of frosting
That'll be
in my
us in
purse.
20 years.
Be like,
Dunkin'
wait,
Donuts.
I got
Where's
the
your
frosting
icing here? I
right
got
here.
to self ice.
You guys don't put icing on your muffins. Hold on, kids. I've got icing right here.
This is a crisis.
I feel like it
I
is
hope
a
Dunkin'
crisis.
corrects this problem.
They're
But Kit and I
not.
have decided, our youngest daughter, we've decided that we're just, you can order from the drive-thru, but the correct thing to do is to go inside Dunkin' Donuts and, the display of all the food
Yes.
behind the counter. You could then see if the muffins were iced or not, and then only order them from the Dunks that actually ice them. So I don't know why this is becoming a thing, but it's a problem. It's false advertising, quite frankly.
It's false out. Can we sue them? Can I sue
I don't
them
know
for?
if you can sue.
I mean, I don't really
There
want
has
to
be
sue
some
Dunkin'
kind of
Donuts. I don't want to
damages.
somehow.
And they're actually saving
the
your
damages.
waistline.
I am emotionally distraught.
Okay.
There's pain and suffering because I don't have icing on my pumpkin muffins.
Tell you what, if you get their maple bacon croissant sandwich, though, it'll change your world.
Ooh, maybe I'm just picking the wrong dessert altogether.
You just got to move on to something
Is
else.
that a dessert? I guess that's a meal, but it sounds like it's dessert.
That's another great fall flavor is the maple.
The maple.
Now, maple's
everything.
not really a fall thing. Ironically, maple is actually a winter-spring thing. That's when they actually
Because you put it on
pull the
snow when you
sap.
go to a maple
Well,
syrup
not only that,
place.
but that's when the sap runs in February, March. So that's the time to get your maple syrup. But for some reason in New England, it's a fall thing too. It's weird.
It's an all year thing. Are you kidding? We put maple syrup on everything all year long here. There is no non-maple season in the Northeast.
Thanks for listening to The Road Reflected. To follow more of Nicole Wakeland's adventures, head on over to NicoleWakeland.com. There you'll find links to her social media from TikTok to Twitter, as well as her work across a wide range of media outlets. Until next time, keep it shiny side up.